How much does a criminal defense attorney cost to represent somebody, to help you out of a problem? And that's a question we often get. And if you have that question or you're just interested in that in general, this is the video for you. So stay tuned. Hey everybody, my name is Lance Fryrear. I'm a criminal defense attorney in Linwood, Washington, and my law firm's been defending people charged with crimes for more than 20 years. And we often get that question, how much does it cost? How much does it cost for your firm or a criminal defense attorney in general to help with the situation? And, prices vary based upon region, based upon type of crime, based upon, what an attorney is. They think about their availability, how busy are they? But I'm going to cover 4 factors that generally affect the price of what you might expect to pay for a criminal defense attorney in your charged crime or uncharged crime here in Washington State. So I think the first thing that controls how much a criminal defense attorney might cost is how serious is the crime charged. Okay, so if it's a major felony, like a rape or a felony assault or a crime with a weapon, where we know that it's likely the type of case that may have to go to a trial, that's a lot more work on a defense attorney, and so that's going to cost a lot more money. I would think that might cost, $20,000 or more on top of trial fees, at least if you're in the general Seattle area. But you could get a higher quote, could get a lesser quote, depends on how serious the crime is. While misdemeanors, like a DUI or an assault or something like that, might be $4,000 or $5,000. It depends on how serious the crime is and what type of jeopardy you're facing. The more complicated, the more high number of crimes, if it's going to be more work because it's complicated financial matters, you're likely going to get a higher rate out of a defense attorney. And for the most part, defense attorneys typically charge a flat rate fee, usually a flat rate up to a trial. And the reason why that is because usually delay is something that helps a criminal defendant's case. As time passes, people are less mad. Witnesses disappear or change their mind. And so if it costs you more money as delay happened in the case, you probably wouldn't let it delay. And that's why criminal defense attorneys typically charge a flat rate, because we need to do what we need to do to try to keep you out of jail and save your life, basically. So typically you're going to get a flat rate offer, and how complicated the case is, how serious the charge is probably the number one factor about how much you might pay. I think the number 2 factor is how difficult the court is. How difficult is the prosecutor, right? If it's a harder court or prosecutor to deal with who want to fight about every little thing, you're probably going to get a higher rate quote than if it's an easier court. And for the most part, don't take this as gospel, but for the most part, city cases, oftentimes city prosecutors are a little more cooperative than state prosecutors. And there's lots of reasons for that. But basically, oftentimes state prosecutors can try to move up the ladder to prosecute felonies, things like that, while city prosecutors pretty much are static in that one position. And they have less incentive, I think, in general, to be really difficult on cases. They still can be. But in general, think about if you have a city case, it's probably going to be a little less expensive to defend than a state case for the most part, everything else being equal. So I think the third thing that can affect how much you pay for a defense attorney is geography. How close is the firm that you're looking to hire to the court that you need to be in, right? So my office is in Linwood, and I'd say that it's pretty fair to say that all things being equal, we're going to charge less to handle a case in Linwood down the block than we would in Spokane, which is a multi-hour drive. So, and many times, if we think the distance is prohibitive, it's going to cost too much for, we're not that much better than someone who's local in Spokane, potentially, right? And so we might suggest hiring a more local firm. It's not necessary, but realize that distance sometimes can make a difference. Sometimes it doesn't. We have a lot of Zoom court, and also, where most attorneys are used to going an hour, hour and a half, even 2 hours outside of their jurisdiction or where they're, located. Normally, but if price is really, really, really an object, think about that, but also never make the mistake of going with the lowest price. Remember, there's cost and there's price. Okay, the price is what you have to pay the attorney to get you out of this. The cost is a much greater if you make a mistake and have the wrong attorney representing you. So, but factor 3, I think, is geography, and finally, factor 4 is probably how big the firm is. in my opinion, a firm that's a little bit bigger has more options and can handle more cases at once, and therefore they're not necessarily going to be so overworked. If you go to a solo person, if they're successful, they can be spread pretty thin, and they sometimes have to quote higher rates, in my opinion, to sort of keep their caseload where they can handle it. So if the firm has a few attorneys in it, 3, 4, 5 attorneys like us, there's more flexibility in what we can quote as far as, do we have the team to be able to do a good job? Because if we're overflowing with cases and you're responsible, you're going to try to cut down on your caseload by probably charging a little bit more to sort of keep your caseload down. So those are the 4 things that I think can affect how much it costs to have a defense attorney. I think the 5th thing that people don't really think about, at least it's true for us, is in a flat rate type situation, if you're nicer to the attorney, if you seem like you're going to be a good client, you're not going to be a headache, you're going to, communicate well with the attorney, you're probably going to get a little bit lower rate than if you're difficult or seem highly demanding, at least during the initial interview. So, because of course, if it's going to be harder to deal with you as a customer, we're probably going to charge a little bit extra, at least that's sort of human nature, right? I think that happens in all service industries. And finally, if you can't afford to hire an attorney, there's always a public defender. If you qualify for the income requirements for a public defender, you're not going to have to probably pay anything to get the public defender to represent you, or very little. Usually, you might have to recoupment a few $100s. So, hopefully you can get a private attorney. If not, don't go it alone. Make sure to apply for the public defender. So those are the factors that will affect how much it costs to have an attorney. In your head, think about it. Depending on the jurisdiction, depending on your geography, in Snohomish County, a DUI might be, $4,000 to $6,000. A felony might be $10,000 to $20,000, $30,000, $40,000. And lesser crimes will probably cost less. But all that depends. And also, I should mention, I forgot, if you have a more serious criminal history, typically you might get a higher quote for more serious criminal history because it's going to be a harder case to get the prosecutor to let you go. So I hope you found this helpful. If so, please like and please subscribe. More people will get to see this. And more importantly, if you're in trouble or you know someone who is and you need some help, feel free to give my office a call. We've been doing this for more than 20 years. We'll listen to what happened. If we think we're a good match, we'll offer to get involved, and we'll be there for you. Thank you.